When Amara Johnson stood before the courtroom, every eye in the room judged her before she even spoke. The young black woman, dressed neatly in a gray suit, was mistaken for a defendant, not a translator. The judge smirked, whispering something to his clerk, as laughter rippled through the courtroom. "9 languages? Is that what you claim?" he said, his tone dripping with disbelief. But what happened next silenced the room. Because Amara didn't just speak, she commanded the space in a way no one expected. "Watch till the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this." Amara had always been fascinated by language. Growing up in Atlanta, she spent her nights studying not 1, not 2, but 9 different languages. Her dream wasn't fame or recognition. It was to become a bridge between cultures, voices, and justice. After years of struggle, she earned a position as a certified court interpreter, one of the youngest in her state. But in the halls of justice, respect was something she still had to fight for. Too often, people assumed she didn't belong, that her dark skin and youthful face couldn't possibly represent intellect or professionalism. That morning, she was assigned to interpret a high-profile case involving international defendants. She arrived early, calm and prepared, unaware that the system she worked so hard to serve would test her in ways she never imagined. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Cameras flashed as the accused, 2 European businessmen, sat flanked by attorneys. Amara stood beside the defense table, ready to interpret. The judge, an older white man with decades on the bench, barely glanced her way. When she introduced herself as a certified interpreter, his brow furrowed. "Interpreter?" he said, voice dripping with skepticism. "You sure you're in the right courtroom?" The clerk stifled a laugh. A few reporters snickered. Amara's heart thudded, but she remained composed. As the proceedings began, she started translating, seamlessly switching between French, German, and Italian. The attorneys exchanged stunned glances, but instead of admiration, the judge interrupted her mid-sentence. "That's enough," he said sharply. "Let's verify this. Miss Johnson, if you're truly fluent, explain this legal term in all your so-called languages." His tone was mocking, as if daring her to fail. The room quieted, cameras ready. Amara took a breath. One by one, she explained the complex phrase in flawless French, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Arabic, Mandarin, Swahili, and Russian. Her voice didn't shake once. The defendants themselves nodded in agreement, impressed, almost humbled. But the judge's face darkened. He shifted in his seat, refusing to acknowledge her skill. "Fine," he muttered. "We'll proceed." Yet the damage, or perhaps the awakening, had already begun. The trial continued, and every translation Amara made was perfect. But halfway through, the defense attorney stumbled on a foreign phrase. The judge, impatient, misinterpreted it, altering the meaning of crucial testimony. Amara immediately corrected him, citing the original phrasing with precision. Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge froze. She had just publicly corrected him, and she was right. The defense attorney backed her up, confirming her translation. Cameras caught every moment, the tension, the judge's reddening face, the undeniable truth of her mastery. In that instant, the entire courtroom shifted. The same people who'd laughed at her now stared in stunned silence. The judge, once so confident in his superiority, realized he had been schooled by the very woman he'd dismissed as unworthy. When the hearing ended, the judge asked Amara to remain. For a long moment, he said nothing, just looked at her, perhaps seeing her for the first time. Then, quietly, he thanked her for her accuracy and professionalism. The next day, headlines across the country read, "Young Black Interpreter Stuns Courtroom After Judge's Mockery." But for Amara, it wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. About every black professional who'd ever been underestimated, overlooked, or laughed at before proving everyone wrong. Months later, she was promoted to lead interpreter, overseeing multicultural cases across the state. Her story spread globally, a reminder that brilliance has no color and respect should never be earned through humiliation. So tell me, what country and city are you watching from tonight? Since you requested, here's an extended cinematic version. Same story, with more profound character emotion, flashback detail, and smoother pacing for a 7 to 8 minute read. When Amara Johnson walked into the courthouse that morning, she carried not just her bag of neatly organized documents, but years of quiet determination. The building smelled faintly of polished wood and stale coffee, a place where justice was spoken loudly, yet equality still whispered. Amara had earned her interpreter's certification 2 years earlier, after studying languages since she was 10. Her mother used to say, "Baby, your voice will take you places your feet can't." And she was right. Amara had spent her childhood collecting words the way others collected coins. French lullabies, Spanish poems, Arabic proverbs, she absorbed them all. But no matter how skilled she became, the world seemed determined to remind her she was different. When she first applied for the court interpreter's position, one administrator assumed she was there to clean the offices. Another asked if she was the defendant's sister. She learned to smile through it, to let her work speak louder than prejudice ever could. That morning's case was supposed to be routine, interpreting for two European business people accused of fraud. The case had drawn media attention, and the courtroom was packed with reporters. Amara arrived early, checked her equipment, and stood ready. But the moment she introduced herself, the air shifted. The judge's eyes flicked to her resume, then back to her face. "You?" he asked, incredulous. His voice carried just enough mockery to make the clerk snicker. Amara kept her composure. "Yes, Your Honor. Certified interpreter for French, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Arabic, Mandarin, Swahili, and Russian." A few reporters chuckled. "9 languages?" one whispered. The judge leaned back, a smirk forming. "Well," he said dryly, "this should be interesting." The trial began. Amara took her place beside the defense table, translating testimony with fluid precision. Her voice was calm, steady, moving seamlessly between tongues. The defendants listened intently, nodding in approval. The attorneys followed her rhythm, confident in her accuracy, but the judge wasn't done testing her. Midway through, he interrupted. "Interpreter," he roared, "since you're so multilingual, why don't you define this term in all your claimed languages?" There was laughter. Amara paused, her pulse steadying. Then, without hesitation, she began. Each word flowed like music, precise, beautiful, undeniable. The courtroom fell silent as she transitioned from one language to another with effortless grace. When she finished, you could hear the click of cameras. Even the defendants clapped softly in astonishment. The judge, however, didn't applaud. His pride had been bruised. "Very well," he said stiffly. "Let's continue." Hours passed, tension building like a storm cloud. Then came the turning point. The defense attorney misused a legal term in Italian. The judge quickly paraphrased it in English, twisting its meaning. Amara knew it was wrong, dangerously wrong. The mistranslation could change the case entirely. She hesitated only a second before stepping forward. "Your Honor," she said clearly, "that interpretation is incorrect." The courtroom froze. No one corrected a judge, and not publicly. But she did. Calmly, she repeated the Italian phrase, explaining its proper meaning, then cited its legal context in German and English. The defense attorney nodded. "She's right, Your Honor." The judge's face reddened. Cameras flashed. The same man who had mocked her now stood corrected before the entire court. The rest of the trial went on in strained silence. Amara continued her work flawlessly. When it ended, the judge dismissed everyone, except her. As the last person left, he looked at her quietly. The arrogance in his eyes was gone. "Miss Johnson," he said, his voice softer now, "thank you for your accuracy today. It wasn't much, but it was enough." The next morning, her name was everywhere. News outlets ran headlines. "Black interpreter silences courtroom with linguistic brilliance." Clips of her 9-language translation went viral, reaching millions. Messages poured in from around the world, from teachers, translators, and young women who saw themselves in her strength. But for Amara, the real victory was something more profound. She hadn't just proven herself to one man, she'd opened a door for others, a quiet revolution born in a courtroom. Months later, She was promoted to lead interpreter, overseeing international cases across the state. And when asked how she stayed calm under such pressure, she smiled and said, "Because I wasn't just speaking languages, I was speaking truth." In a world that often measured worth by color, Amara's voice reminded everyone that excellence needs no validation. So what about you? If you were in that courtroom, would you have laughed or listened? Tell me, which country and city are you watching from tonight? Take care.